In my opinion, some of the barriers between the SME community and public sector procurement in Wales is simple opportunities to communicate with each other. SMEs are often too busy running their companies to have time to chase after public procurers, and the public procurement processes don't lend themselves to communication. One simple example is that we've found that public procurers do not always debrief their suppliers after tender in the way that we would want them to. And those debriefings can then be valuable opportunities for SMEs to learn and to improve for the next time. The processes themselves are often overly bureaucratic and not always consistent between different public sector organisations. And SMEs who've had bad experiences simply walk away and do not engage. And these are some of the things that Value Wales wants to change and through some of the programmes that we have running. Well, I think the way the SME community feels about public procurement depends very much on the individual SME and their experiences to date. Value Wales recently conducted research with over 50 SMEs asking them exactly that question. And what we found was that the public sector is well regarded as a market. It's attractive, it's secure, it pays on time and is seen to manage its contracts well. However, a lot of SMEs identified problems in finding the right person to talk to in public sector organisations. There was a feeling that the public sector doesn't engage in dialogue in the way the private sector does, and therefore doesn't always get the most out of its suppliers, both its current ones and its potential suppliers. There was also a perception that the public sector is overly focused on price and not necessarily on the full quality of service and the full issues involved. And I think one of the things that Value Wales wants to do in some of the things that we're developing is really to get over to those SMEs the message that the public sector is looking to change and that bad experiences to date should not necessarily be the way that things will be in the future. Well, Value Wales has recently been running a project in food to look at how we can rethink public food procurement to facilitate greater involvement with SMEs and to improve the nutritional aspect of public food. We've had a group running with procurement and catering managers. Through that we produced guidance called Food for Thought, and more recently have published case studies of people who've actually taken those ideas and put them into practice. Summarising some of those case studies, that the key thing that we've seen, the answer has been to involve the whole supply chain in the change. And we've had examples where we've been able to get local farmers supplying their meat through local abattoirs, through local meat processors and into schools and hospitals. I think key to the change has really been a partnership approach, working with the whole supply chain and a lot of flexibility with everybody. There's been new products developed through it and new cuts of meat, and it's an approach which we've seen work and which is now being rolled out on a much wider basis across Wales. I think the way that the SME community in Wales can best get itself ready to meet the challenge of the public sector is first of all to recognise that public sector procurement is changing and be open-minded and responsive to those changes. An important thing to do is to be aware of the opportunities, and the easiest way to do this is to register on Sell to Wales, the website which will increasingly be the vehicle where information about public sector opportunities will be published, and also information about the public sector itself. I think it's important that SMEs also have a look at the charter that will be produced, which really lays out the way that the public sector wants to work with SMEs in Wales and beyond. Within that, there's a number of things that SMEs can do to help themselves. One example is being internet capable. Another is to make best use of the grants that are available through the Welsh Development Agency and through other aspects of Welsh Assembly Government that are really there to help SMEs improve the quality and consistency of the service and product they provide. At the end of the day, good public procurement requires good suppliers, and the better the supplier and the better that they improve their businesses, the more opportunity they will have to be successful in supporting Welsh public procurement. Value Wales recently conducted research with a group of SMEs, and this was one of the questions we asked them, was why do they sometimes not submit responses to tender requests? What they came back with was that generally they don't submit tenders where they don't have the capacity or the capability for the particular tender requirement. And this is one of the reasons. However, we've also found that sometimes the public sector can put too short a timescale on the response sought that simply doesn't take account of the SME's other obligations in simply running its business. Another issue has been where the documentation itself is simply so bureaucratic and onerous that where the SME has the option between the public sector customer and perhaps another market that's more easier to deal with, they will take the second option. And this is one of the things that Value Wales wants to change. Yes, there are growing moves, both in the UK and in Wales particularly, for public sector procurement to consider environmental issues in how it buys goods and services. And I think the way this is going to come through is we're going to see an increasing use of environmental specifications. We're also going to see focus on how the contract's delivered, looking through the contract management process for improvements, reduction to waste, better use of recycled materials, looking at the transport implications of how contracts are delivered. And SMEs need to be aware of these changes. Value Wales itself is running a programme on sustainable procurement, and currently 56% of the public sector is actually signed up to that, now looking at how they can learn, how they can change their processes, and increasingly over time we'll see that coming through in practice. I think this very much depends on the SME itself. We have knowledge of some SMEs who are actually ahead in this field, who are making their whole business environmental, who have either got ISO 14001 or who have signed up to the Green Dragon programme and have now got to Green Dragon Level 5. So there are SMEs out there who are actually ahead of the public sector. There are also SMEs who haven't embraced this and perhaps need to start considering, do they have an environmental management system, and really looking at what's on offer and what is grant funded through Arena Network and what is available to them.